New York Governor Kathy Hochul will hold a meeting about New York City Mayor Eric Adams' future.
So check out the cover of the New York Post today, this morning, reading "Fall from Gracie," as 4 of Adams's top aides, I guess you'd call them the deputy mayors, all resign.
Alexis McAdams joins us now with the latest. Hey, Alexis.
Hey, there is a lot going on over at City Hall, so we're going to see exactly what happens. This comes, though, as New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she is going to meet at some point this morning, we're told, with key leaders to discuss New York City Mayor Eric Adams' removal from office. She's not saying she's going to do it, but hey, they're looking at it, so that is the big news right now in New York City. This comes as fellow Democrats, as you guys know, have been pushing for days now to try and get Adams out of there, including the city's comptroller is also possibly running for mayor. So we're going to see what happens today. The governor releasing this statement. Let's pull it up, okay? I recognize the immense responsibility I hold as governor and the constitutional powers granted to this office. In the 235 years of New York State history, these powers have never been utilized to remove a duly elected mayor. Overturning the will of the voters is a serious step that should not be taken lightly. So that's what Hochul's saying this morning. But the calls to remove Mayor Adams are growing louder. This was just yesterday in New York City. People had signs and they were chanting. They said they want him gone. They feel like his back is up against the wall as allegations swirl, accusing him of making a deal with the Justice Department to drop his own criminal case, only if he would help the Trump administration enforce their immigration policies. You guys talked to Adams and Tom Homan just the other day on Fox and Friends, where he denied making any type of deal, pushing back, saying this prosecution is all based on politics.
She has her role, I have my role. And throughout this entire ordeal, which I think no American should have to go through, the torment of 15 months that my family and I had to endure for something I didn't do. I didn't do anything wrong. Throughout the entire ordeal, I said one thing. My attorney will handle the legal part. I'm going to handle running the city.
Really good. Asked a judge to drop the charges against Adams the other day. This has all been coming. This comes, though, as you guys just mentioned, those 4 deputy mayors say they are out of City Hall. They don't want to be a part of this thing. And then also the top DOJ officials stepped down last week. So who would take over? How would that all play out is the question this morning. Well, if Adams is forced to leave or asked to resign there from public office, the public advocate, Jumaane Williams, who we've talked about before, would have to take over as acting mayor until there's that special election held. And yesterday, or this week rather, Mayor Adams was just saying at an event, you guys kind of pushing back against Jumaane Williams, saying like, you don't want me, or are you sure you want this guy? So we'll see what he has to say today.
So Alexis, from what you know, so for example, there could be a special election before the election, which is November?
That's what they're possible. So we have to see.
Crazy.
We have to see, but this Jumaane Williams has said for quite some time now, as these allegations have swirled and there's been some issues going at City Hall over the NYPD, he said he was ready to kind of to take charge and get over there to City Hall. But Adams has said to you guys too, that's his big thing. He said he's been through so much in the past. He talks about, you know, his mom always told him to push through. So he says he's going to stick it out. So we'll see what happens.
Unbelievable.
Right. And Alexis, you mentioned Jumaane Williams. The mayor yesterday said you really don't want him because here's a guy who gets up at noon. It's hard to run a city when you get up at noon. But real quickly,
De Blasio.
Like the last guy.
Regarding this meeting with the governor today, she's in a terrible predicament because it would be hard for her to throw out a Democrat who is the mayor of New York City while, you know, as we know, there's going to be an election in June. Why not just let it play itself out? Let the folks decide in June, and he'll probably be booted anyway.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. He thinks that he'd still be fine. He said last time around, too, he was down on those poll numbers. He doesn't care, the mayor, about those poll numbers or what people are saying. He says it's up to New Yorkers. He feels like he's done a good job. But Kathy Hochul, that's why she said, I guess, in that statement, you know, it's up to the will of the voters. She doesn't really want to overturn it and just kind of leave it willy-nilly. So we'll have to see what happes. But that meeting is just a few blocks away, so we're going to head there.
Her lieutenant governor has even called for Adams to resign, and that lieutenant governor was handpicked by Hochul, and she said in the 235 years of New York State history, the governor's power to remove an elected official has never been used. So this would be a first.
Right.
Thanks, Alexis.
Thanks, guys.
Great job.
You know, when I hear the word emergency meeting, it just really grinds my gear. There was no emergency meeting when an illegal set that woman on fire in the subway. There has been no emergency meeting when people have been pushed into the subway, shooting at our cops in the middle of the street. No emergency meeting. But suddenly, when you got a guy who's the mayor working with the president of the United States to keep this city safe. All they want to do is get the criminals off the street. Suddenly there's an emergency meeting to get him removed, but not when all of our lives have been put at
So
risk.
Trump could
It's
pick up
crazy.
the phone and say, I don't know what you're going to decide today, but let me just tell you, it's in the best interest of the city to let the election play
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And that was the whole reason why his Department of Justice stepped up, because it said, I don't care about his case, but don't interfere with the election in
And
2020.
also,
let the voters
also,
decide.
Lawrence, you and I live in the city.
Yeah,
So we
sadly.
vote.
It's like-
And I don't want, if the will of the people should be heard. You can't just pull someone off because you disagree with them. I can understand if they're charged with a major
Right.
crime, but the DOJ dropped those charges. So you can't just, I don't think you
Right.
should be able to remove someone that the voters voted in.
That's right.
Well, the DOJ dropped the charges because they said, okay, we want him to cooperate with the president's migration problem here in New York City, and it would interfere with that election. Keep in mind, the Department of Justice can refile those charges at any time, and so that's one of the things. But ultimately, when it comes down to the will of the people, it's given the fact that this is like an 80% Democrat town. Will the Democrats at that primary punish Eric Adams for working with Donald Trump? Forget about all the bad publicity. I mean, every day now there's something bad on the front page of the paper about Eric Adams. Forget about that. But just the fact that he would cooperate with Donald Trump,
All I know is
that's a problem.
All I know is that the people in the Bronx, New York, not really like your Republican area, were cheering when the Homeland Secretary and ICE were there getting rid of the criminals, because the people here, they understand it. They see these people that are causing problems in their neighborhood. They're not in, maybe the rich New York voters are gonna vote for someone else because of this, but the poor folks that understand the travesty that's been happening here, they're gonna vote for him, I think.
Well, ICE is now allowed back at Rikers Island. So they're going to be able, when those criminals
Yeah.
get in, they can grab them right
I think
out.
most New
So-
Yorkers, the ones I speak to, they're worried about crime in the city. So
Yes.
he's
It's
just
terrible.
wanting to take the criminals off the streets.
And evidently,
most people
Steve and
wouldn't have a
I
problem with
can't
that.
really weigh in because you and Lawrence live in the city.
Well, we
Well,
work,
I
we
didn't
work
say
in
it
the
was a
city.
I guess we'll
pleasure
just
to
sit on the
live there. I didn't
sideline
say
We are
that.
and
taxed
just
by
sit
the
this one
city.
out. All right?
We get a
You wanna
voice.
lead
We
it?
are taxed by New York City.
Would you
Right.
like to
But
move
we
to
have
the
no
city?
voice. We just take our money. Absolutely.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a very exciting announcement for parents everywhere. It's called Mint Kids, and it's a plan specifically designed for kids just getting their first phones.
It's a full-size plan for your mini-me.
I don't like that.
Well, it's unlimited talk and text. 5 gigabytes of data for a perfectly sized plan, so I can't get into too much trouble, right, Big Ryan?
See, this is the kind of stuff that I don't want my kids seeing online.
Upsy?
Yep, no, get out of here.
Upsy?
You stop that.
Upsy?
Terrifying little creature.